Shine. What does it mean? When I was asked to speak here this evening, I thought, okay, I need to know what I'm speaking about because I have a tendency to embellish. So what I did is I went to where I go whenever I need to find an answer, Google. And if the truth be told, sometimes when I'm doing my readings and I need to look up a Bible verse, rather than getting up to go get the Bible, I Google the Bible sometimes, but that's another story. So I went to go Google, and this is how it's defined. To emit rays of light, to be bright by reflection of light, to perform extremely well, to have a bright, glowing appearance. And if you want to talk about the transitive verb, and I didn't look up transitive, so I'm not sure what that means, it says to cause to emit light, to throw or direct the light of. Well, I think we all like things that shine, don't we? Think about it. The sun was shining so bright today, it was beautiful. The stars that shine at night. My husband likes bright, shiny cars. The shining faces of people we love. And some of us like shining, glittering, sparkling diamonds and gems. But have you stopped to think about what makes something shine? I know that I usually recognize a bright, shining sun after a cloudy day or a storm. And the stars seem to shine really bright against the backdrop of a dark sky. And my husband has to work really hard and buff to get the shine out on the car. And one of my favorite sayings is, it's a Chinese proverb, and it says, a gem cannot be polished without friction. And then it goes on to say, nor a man perfected without trials. Well, here I am, Cindy Colangelo, and I'm going through my polishing stage. You see, in 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time in 8 years. I didn't consider it a big event, and I don't mean that as any disrespect to anybody that has suffered from cancer in any form, but they caught it early. I had a lumpectomy and had 6 weeks of radiation, and I was back on my feet. I think I missed 2 days of work and had to work my work schedule around radiation, but other than that, I bounced right back. But the second time in 2009 was a little bit more eventful. Because of my previous experience, my husband and I decided that I was going to get a mastectomy, a double mastectomy. And that was going to be followed up with 6 rounds of chemo, 6 weeks of radiation, and then 9 months of regular infusions of a drug that targeted the type of cancer I had. And hopefully, that would end this journey. And I thought it did. But on New Year's Eve, getting ready to kick off the year 2011, the first year without any type of cancer stuff going on, I found a lump as I was showering to get ready to go out with my husband. And after surgery and test, we found that the drug had metastasized, which means it had spread to other parts of my body, and I was now stage 4 and incurable. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Talk about scary. I remember the day that I realized the severity of the situation was when my baby sister and I were in Houston at MD Anderson, and we were sitting there in the room by ourselves, and her husband had told her, "Don't you dare cry." And the doctor came in, and he looked at me, and he said, "Do you know what your prognosis is? It's not good, and you have a fight ahead of you, and this is not going to be a sprint. It is going to be a marathon." Well, for me at that moment, it felt like somebody had turned my switch off. I have to admit that in those early days, I was numb and so scared about how much longer I was going to be around to enjoy my family and friends. I found myself counting the days and the months until when my 15-year-old son would be going down to San Antonio to do a big concert with his choir group. And then I was calculating how many years until he would be graduating high school. And I was hoping beyond hope that my 25-year-old son would meet the woman of his dreams so that I would be there for the wedding and I would be alive to see my grandbaby born. He doesn't have a girlfriend yet, by the way. Those days were pretty dark. And I felt like I was just going through the motions, just getting from one day to the next. And then a good friend suggested a book that I read, Just Enough Light for the Step I'm On, by Stormy O'Martin. I hope I pronounced her name right. And day by day, I realized that if I just trusted in the Lord, I would be fine. And I also realized that all any of us have is just one day. We must do our best to make the most of it. And that God gives us just what we need for that next step. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Well, my faith in what God has promised each one of us has become stronger and stronger. I found that if I kept focusing on the positive, remembering all the blessings that I have in life, and I kept my mind full of good messages, I could get through this. I had my Bible and a couple of devotional books, about a stack like this, that has now grown to a stack like this, and I read every day. I also found that by sharing my experience with others personally and through a website called Caring Bridge was very helpful. Not only did it allow me to keep my family, which is large and spread out, and network of friends updated on my progress with this cancer fight, but it allowed me to share my thoughts and perspective on this journey. And if anyone has ever experienced a life-changing moment like this, you know how your perspective changes, and hopefully in a very positive way. For me, it's been a lesson to live day by day, and as one of the lights in my life, one of my chemo nurses shared with me, from moment to moment. And you know what? As I reached out to people, they reached back to me. Through this site, I have received some of the most wonderful messages of encouragement and support from people I know, from family, from friends, from people I don't know, from some of you out there maybe that I've never met. My writings have been passed on to others in other states. And in fact, there's a mission in Kenya that I've learned is praying for me through my Caring Bridge site, which I love. Now, do I get up every day and think, oh, this is wonderful, blissful, things are great? Heck no. No. There are days when the fears set in, and when the reality of this disease and what is going on hits me. I've learned the world doesn't stop just because Cindy's having a bad day or Cindy has cancer and bad things still happen. And I worry that I'm going to be that statistic, the statistic that I don't want to be. But then I pull out my readings, or I take a walk, or I reach out to one of my many lights, and a lot of you are here, and things get turned around. Have any of you guys ever gone camping? And you sat in front of a campfire, and the fire is glowing, and it's warm, and the sparks, and it's gorgeous. And then if you just sit there, the fire starts to go out, starts to dwindle. So what do you have to do? You have to get up, you have to poke that fire, you have to add logs. And that's what I feel like I'm doing with my reading and reaching out. I'm keeping that fire going. I remember my blessings. And I need to remember that in dark times, they will pass. Now, this experience hasn't been the greatest fun, but it definitely hasn't been all bad either. I've suffered some really crappy side effects that have been limiting at times, but I've also been able to experience the wonderful love and support of so many people around me. Family, friends, people that I have yet to meet, people that I just love. And some of those are here today. In fact, quite a few are here today. Each one has shined in my life. Some continue to be a part of my everyday life. Some were just there for a short while. But every one of those connections has had an impact. As I have been speaking, pictures of people who have touched my life have flashed by. Some are family and friends who have been along with me through the duration of my journey. Others may have just touched it briefly, but they've all had their impact. You've seen pictures of my husband, that's Go Gators, and sons who have supported me so much and always make me laugh and smile when things get a little tough. My birth sisters who have become my ad hoc nurses and have done things that I would never do. along with their families and my parents. My mother-in-law, whose faith was never ending and who always reminded me to leave things in God's hands. My team of CC sisters, who you all saw just a few minutes ago, who walked 60 miles with me in 3 days, 2 years in a row, and several of them are here. And together we did raise more than $125,000 for breast cancer research. Thank you. Ifa, the gentleman I met in Hawaii, who told me about the dolphin, who gave me a wood carving of dolphins and shared with me that dolphins mean good luck and long life. And shortly after that, my husband and I went on a sunset cruise and saw, I don't know what you call it, a swarm of dolphin, a gaggle of dolphin, whatever. It was a lot of dolphin. Pod, thank you. Thank you, thank you. The sign of encouragement along our 3-day walk, written by an anonymous supporter of all of the walkers, sharing with us how she missed her mom and thanking us for doing the journey. And every time I stop and I think I don't want to walk 60 miles this year, I think about that sign. Friends who continue to rally around me with their notes, calls, lunch dates, there's a sign, and laughter. Every picture represents someone who has shined in my life, and there are so many more. She shined. Now let me introduce you to Mrs. Rickman. I debated whether I should change her name for this story, but I wanted Mrs. Rickman to be remembered. She wasn't in my life very long, but in our short time together, her light shined so bright for me and many of those around her. Mrs. Rickman was in her early 90s and was a resident at a nursing home that I visited regularly when I was doing work as an ombudsman. She had no children, and her husband Bill still lived at the house that they had lived in together before she got ill with their dog. You would find her sitting in a recliner or a wheelchair when you went to see her because she couldn't lay down. She couldn't lay down, she couldn't walk. She could sit in her chair. She even slept in that recliner. She couldn't see well, so when you walked in, you had to announce who you were, and once she knew who you were, her face lit up. But she was there with you. Now, you may think, how crappy. Living in a nursing home, you can't be with your husband, you can't move around, you can't lay down, but you would never know it. I'm sure at times it bothered her, but she never let on. But what I did know is she loved the Dallas Mavericks, and she loved Dirk Nowitzki. She loved the Rangers, and believe it or not, she loved Tiger Woods. And she talked about Tiger Woods and that woman, and she loved all sports. She loved sharing stories with anyone that visited her, and her eyes would shine as she talked about her early days of marriage, when she would bake, how she would sneak out to the drive-in with her husband. She chose to be happy in light of the situation that she was in. And we often talked about choosing your own attitude. If an activity went on down in the center, she was there. This picture was taken during one of their Valentine's Day celebrations. I remember telling her how beautiful she was, and her face just lit up. But she lit up in my life. Shortly after I found out I had cancer and that it had metastasized, I went to visit her for one last time. Bill had died in the month that I had been away. Her health had deteriorated, and she had reached the end of her time on earth. But her light still shines for me. Her light that loved this life no matter what the circumstances. And what I have learned is that we all have a light to shine. So, how is your light shining? And if it's not shining brightly, What are you going to do to stoke that flame? And once your earthly flame has died, as they all will at some time, how will your light continue to shine in those you love, just like Mrs. Rickman's light continues to shine for me today? For as it says in Matthew, you are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And I know that God continues to shine his light through the wonderful people that he has brought into my life. To God be the glory. Thank you all so much.
Cindy, we're all standing out here, girl. We're all standing out here for you. She's waving at us. Yay, she's waving. Everybody wave. You know what I love about Cindy? I love, as I sat down and even talked with her and even hearing her again tonight, what I love is that I stand amazed that she hasn't let this beat her. She's not defeated by it, but instead she could be defeated by it. She could choose her attitude of defeat, as she talked about, but instead she's chosen to fight. As she said, even in her bio, she's going to fight, and she's going to let her light continue to shine through her fight. It's such a great and wonderful encouragement to me, and hopefully to you too. We're going to continue to hear more and more stories of shining and encouragement tonight. But one thing I do want to do before we continue on is get into some door prizes. Would you all like some of that? Okay, I have tickets here. Oh, we've got more. If you have one of these green tickets, I need it. You need it. All right, we got them in the basket? Okay, so let's see. Will you hold this for me?
I will.
You've got a special job. Okay. Our first door prize tonight is everybody like the food? Was it good? Awesome. Wonderful. Well, then you can go eat some more of it, because we have a $25 gift card to Carrabba's and 2 Studio Movie Grill tickets. Oh, so maybe you go get appetizer and then go to dinner? Or maybe you go to dinner and then go get some dessert at Studio Movie Grill? So let's see, who's going to win this one? Reva Reeder. Reva Reeder, thank you. Where are you, girl? Is she? Can you come up here? Come get this thing. Here, I'll meet you halfway. You and John can go have a little date night. That'd be cute. I want a picture. Wonderful, thank you. You're welcome. Congratulations, enjoy that. Well, we're going to get some more of those door prizes later. Don't worry, we got more. On our Legacy website, we gave many of you an opportunity to nominate someone who has shown into your life. And many of you filled out the form on our website, and we're going to share some of those tonight. We're going to ask some people to stand, and they're going to share with us a person in this room that has shown into their life. And they're actually going to go give their shining star a special little gift that reminds them of them. So our first person that is going to share, someone that she has nominated who shines in her life, is Nelisha Howard. Where are you? There's Nelisha. Amy is going to be my little helper, and she's going to run around too. All right, Nelisha, tell us.
Hi, I'm Nelisha Howard. As many of you know, this last year, I thought I was going to be able to do this. My mom was very ill, and I knew I was going to lose her. But also during this time, I just felt like everything was falling apart at home because I was away so much caring for her. Well, through lots of prayer, I was able to get through it, but also having Cynthia Duvall on speed dial was really ultimately what gave me just a great amount of strength. I would feel like I needed to spend some time with my older children, so I would call Cynthia, can you take the baby? She did, and it was wonderful knowing that there was someone there who could be strong for me when I couldn't be strong for myself. So she always did this with a tremendous amount of just strong peace behind her. She would seek me out. She would, with a great smile, say, how are you doing? And she meant it. And there were so many people who prayed for me, and I'm grateful for all of you, but I just wanted to recognize Cynthia for that.
And Tammy Dillon has someone that she would like to thank. Where is Tammy? Oh, there you are. Hi, friend. Okay.
Well, some of you know my story a little bit that are in this room, but 6 months ago, I was walking through the most challenging time in my life, physically, spiritually, emotionally, in every way. And ultimately, I was kind of diagnosed with debilitating anxiety and ultimately depression. And what the outcome of all that was is I ended up having to really spend 4 months away from Legacy. I'm on staff here, by the way. 4 months on leave of absence, and then really 3 months where I didn't even hardly leave my home while I was struggling with my illness. But in that time, God brought to me a person who I called my little angel of mercy. And I'm sorry, I need to look at my notes because I got to get this right, because I'm only going to get one time to do it in this way, and it needs to be done right. She was the one person who spearheaded an entire prayer team for my recovery. She visited me 2 and 3 times a week.